Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Slant 3D podcast, the show about 3D printing and our place inside the industry. Today, we're going to talk about 3D printing as it relates to suppressors, and then also talking a little bit about rockets, going over why you cannot buy filament off of Tangled anymore as much as you would like, discussing a few questions, and then going into whether we should create an alternative to Etsy. But before that, let's go ahead and pay the bills. This episode is brought to you by Teleport. Teleport is our new print-on-demand software that allows anyone to just upload a model so that whenever you get an order, Slant 3D will print the item and ship it directly to your customer for you. No more having to worry about packing up boxes and making sure the machines are maintained and everything is operational and you have the right stuff. You just offload all of that so that you can focus on designing good products and creating a great business around the products that you create. So go ahead and check it out over at slantpod.com. That's slantpod.com. All right, everyone, let's go ahead and move into the news. Oerlikon delivers 25,000 3D printed suppressor. The production milestone was hit at the company's Huntersville, North Carolina facility, where it is using laser-powered bed fusion technology to produce high-performance metal components for critical defense applications. The single-piece, low back pressure item were printed in Metcoad nickel powder and are said to have emerged as a standout AM use case, according to their statement. Unlike traditional suppressors that require complex multi-part assemblies and often generate Back in 2023, Oerlikon announced plans to strategically realign its German additive manufacturing business and consolidate its AM production in the United States in a bid to be closer to the U.S. growth sectors, such as the semiconductor industry. That same year, they signed a multi-year €3.8 million contract with Airbus. Yes, for those who are not familiar, gun suppressors are a very complex aerodynamic type of part that are really tough to manufacture historically. But oddly enough, 3D printing is really good at complex geometries, and being a firearm piece, they are very high margin. So yes, suppressors have been a great market segment for additive manufacturing ever since about 2018 is when they started actually kind of being done on the regular. They are a fantastic use case. There's tremendous value created, engineering advantage, and plenty of money to be made within it. So this is not surprising. 25,000 is actually kind of lower than I would have anticipated, unless they've only been doing it since 2023. And in that case, I'm like, okay, that's quite good. All right, next piece of news. Rocket Lab reserves 2 next-gen ultra-large format Nikon SLM Solutions metal 3D printers. The Long Beach, California company signed a memorandum of understanding with the metal 3D printing OEM to reserve a pair of yet-to-be-announced next-generation systems to support its growing ambitions in aerospace manufacturing. We are proud to deepen our collaboration with Rocket Lab as they continue to pioneer scalable, yes. Their decision to resume, According to a press release, Nikon SLM Solutions says its new machines will be capable of producing significantly larger parts at unmatched productivity. Its NXG series are currently the largest machines in its portfolio, with its NXG 600E launched in 2022, featuring an extended 1.5 meter Z-axis and 12 layers, and has been installed extensively at manufacturers across aerospace everywhere else. A bunch of people are using it. It's a fairly short article. This is per TCT. So, for context on this, Rocket Lab launches small sats. They are probably the nearest active commercial competitor to SpaceX right now. They are effectively a space company that launches rockets equivalent to about the Falcon 1, but they've done it on the regular. I believe they've done over 100 launches at this point. Not nearly as many as SpaceX has done, But in the realm of currently active companies that are actually, I don't know if they're profitable. I think they're profitable too. But Rocket Lab is based in New Zealand and have been active for a while. They're currently working on bigger rockets. But all of aerospace, all of commercial space is using 3D printed rocket engines because it is a better way to do it, again, for aerodynamic, complex engineering and cost advantage benefits. If you're making a rocket nozzle, if you were making it 50 years ago, you would make the bell, the actual nozzle part, and then you would line it with a whole bunch of copper tubes that would run liquid hydrogen through them, and various other, or one of the other fuels. You can use the methane, you can use whatever you want for the fuel. Runs it through there in order to keep the bell cool so that it doesn't melt, and then it runs that coolant/fuel into the actual engine to be combusted and blown out the back so that you have a rocket that works. Very, very laborious to create, very, very unstable in a high vibration environment, like a rocket engine. Whereas with a 3D printer, you can print out the entire nozzle, bell, and have all the tubes embedded in that as part of the print. So it's very, very efficient and very, very stable in a high vibration environment, like a rocket nozzle. So printing outshines everything there. The Rocket Lab also is probably its nearest competitor. SpaceX is kind of a competitor, but its nearest competitor is probably more Relativity Space, because Relativity Space has gotten a similar size rocket into the air and currently 3D prints rocket engines. So Rocket Lab probably looks at them closer than they do to SpaceX, because SpaceX is much further ahead. Okay. Not a lot of news there, so we're going to go ahead and try something different. We're going to just run through some of your questions here right off the bat. Question. If you want to ask a question, go ahead and comment question, whatever your question is down below. If you don't follow that format, we can't find your question. Have you experimented with actively cooled print beds to speed up cycle times? I could see it being problematic to rely on beds to cool naturally in a warehouse full of 3D printers. Come up with anything better than water cooling. So the actual time of cooling for a print bed is not as long as you would imagine in the context of the time to print the part. It also depends on the ejection methodologies and that kind of thing. So actively cooling it generally just complicates the system further without actually creating a viable benefit. For us at Slant 3D, when we're looking at production speed and capacity, we most certainly chase down 5 and 10% gains when they're readily available, but we won't do it for we won't make an entire architecture change for a 5 or 10% gain. For an architecture change, there has to be a 2 to 10x improvement there. This is the disconnect that folks sometimes have with the scale that we have to deal with. Faster print speeds aren't really very useful. If we need to 10x our capacity, we have to 10x the number of machines, because it's not physically possible to 10x the print speed with FDM. Question: what platform would you recommend someone under 18 selling products using Teleport on, as Etsy doesn't allow people under 18 to sell products unless with very strict parental guidance? Have your parents create the store. If you are a minor, your parents are responsible for you, but if they think that you should create the store and operate it, I imagine they can probably create it for you. That's the best way of doing it, because Etsy is going to request your personal information in order to create a thing, so it's not like you can lie like you were signing up for some social network. Question: how many hours of sleep per night do you typically get on average? My median sleep per night is 8 hours. My average is different from that. I am at my most functional when I have 8 hours of sleep per night. Question: you mentioned you manage ADHD. I'm going to save these until other discussions sometimes. Question, does the updated Etsy TOS requirement impact using Slant 3D as a print-on-demand vendor? It seems to imply that I have to own my 3D design IP and not print it myself. No, the updates to Etsy's terms of service do not hurt anyone who's selling stuff through Teleport. You are allowed to use print services. You can do a designed by seller sticker on that. That's totally fine. If you have, especially if you are doing original designs and that kind of thing. The terms of service update is somewhat ambiguous from the responses that Etsy has given in actual practice. Okay, we're just going to do a few questions there and we'll spread them out over time. Moving them up earlier, trying out new stuff on the podcast to see what people feel like there. Okay, let's go ahead. Going to company updates. Tangled. Update on Tangled. No more than 5. This is the new rule. So Tangled has been in kind of a perpetual sort of low-grade suck for the last 4 to 6 weeks or so, because the average order size has been about somewhere between 3 and 10 spools. 3 kg spools. So somewhere between 9 and 30 kilograms has been the average order size. To be fair, we probably should have seen this coming sooner. Low-cost filament, the print farms are going to stock up. That's fine, but it is messing with our production capacity because we cannot predict spikes, especially when somebody comes along and orders like 100 too. So in order to level that out and ensure that the maximum number of people are able to get a good experience with Tangled and also experience Tangled, we are restricting orders to 5 spools, 15 kilograms maximum per order, for a temporary period of time. This ensures that our members are being well taken care of and we're shipping stuff fast, and new people who just want to try it out are getting taken care of and getting it carried out fast. If people want more on the regular, we may introduce a more premium tier of membership or something like that, to where it's like, okay, you're reserving 100 kilograms per month, and that's the print farm tier, or we just increase our capacity. One or the other, but one of them has to give, because right now everybody's getting kind of a bad experience with the filament shipping just too slowly. We want to be shipping in 2 days, and there's some orders that are taking 2 weeks, and we don't think that's good. So we're going to restrict everybody down a little bit and just ration this out a little bit so that it doesn't become an issue. Still a very good deal, still a screamingly good deal for a filament, but hopefully also an astounding deal because it actually will arrive in a reliable amount of time. In addition to that, we have another piece of machinery arriving here, should be in the next week or so. Gabe time. The next week or so, it should allow us to produce more readily, more quickly. We also have more team members finally break-in free. There was a giant spike in Teleport here over the last couple of weeks that we needed to deal with from a bunch of different users doing stuff, and also just the relaunch of version 2 of Teleport. But now those team members can go back to working on Tangled. So Tangled should get caught back up again, and we can start polishing and refining stuff there again. But for the moment, limit of 15 kilograms per order to a customer. Okay, updates to Teleport then. Teleport, Canadians, and Shippo. This is tougher. So 2 weeks ago, we released Teleport V2, which had Shippo as an alternative to ShipStation available, so that you could have a totally free access to Teleport, up to 30 orders. Shippo is free, Teleport is free, and if you get up to 30 orders, then you have to upgrade to like a $10 per month Shippo account. However, for Etsy and only Etsy, Shippo is only supported inside the United States, not in Canada. So Canadian users are not able to import Etsy orders into Teleport unless you get the gold version of ShipStation, which can cost 99 Canadian dollars per month. If you're a power user, not that big of a deal. If you're a smaller free user, quite expensive. So that is the situation right now. We are doing what we can to work around it, but Etsy does not allow third-party apps to have access to shipping information for orders via any means. And then ShipStation has a deal for the US and Canada. Shippo has a deal for the US. And Europe is kind of open to anybody there. So there's all that kind of stuff. We are working through it because there at this point, there's really nothing else we can do. We did Shippo to be the backup to ShipStation when ShipStation changed their pricing. We now have Shippo, and we're working with them, and they have been great as a team to engage with, very responsive to any sort of issues and bugs. But they also have things that they got to do and limitations that they operate within. This brings us to the discussion topic. Well, wait a second here. Let me get back to Teleport for just a moment. Teleport V2 is a tremendous release. The amount of new functionality inside of it and the amount of bones that were redone on it, it's rolling on our API V3 also. The new API is very powerful. New documentation will be coming out for that in the future. The new Teleport, since release, obviously totally free access via Shippo. The prototyper of it is upgraded. You do not have to have anything activated in order to use Prototyper. Prototyper has been upgraded to be even more responsive, even in the last 2 weeks since we released it. So you're able to toy around with it a lot more. Obviously, Teleport has third-party parts in it still, so you can create things like lamps so that they will be printed, and then a light puck can be included with it, or a charging puck can be included with it and shipped out the door. And all of these things, which are quite good, have been included in it. Teleport itself obviously has instant refund on any and all orders forever. And what was the other thing we did on Teleport? There was a bunch of other stuff too. Goodness gracious. Oh, the new sales dashboard inside of Teleport, giving you analytics on how much money you're making on the daily. The stuff we were able to do around prizes. Teleport is not done. It'll never be done. None of our products are ever done. But Teleport is so fantastically powerful right now. And we're not done. There's several key features that are going to start being released over the next couple of weeks or so that we haven't talked about that will round it out a little bit more and continue to smooth out some rough edges. That all being said, these problems of integration with particularly Etsy, because that is the main selling platform. And why is, the main selling platform for 3D printing, folks? Shopify and the other ones, many power users use those, but 3D printing being a hobby sort of technology, anyone who's interested in starting a business generally goes to Etsy. Because Etsy is one of the simplest platforms to list a product on. So yeah, the Etsy also has fantastic marketing. If you create an Etsy store, literally all you have to do is push a button and say advertise, and then Etsy will start advertising your listings, and they'll figure out your listings, put them up onto Instagram and TikTok and all over the places, and you'll just say spend $25 a day, and they will spend up to $25 a day, or they might spend $1 a day, whichever one starts getting sales. That is so incredibly easy. Etsy itself, also incredibly easy to get started and get a listing on. As a platform, it functions very well. There are irritations within it around fees, mainly the fact that they just have too many fees. None of them are egregious or unreasonable. they are just a bunch of them. So it seems like egregious and unreasonable. But as marketplaces go, Etsy does not take an extreme amount of money from you. That all being said, for us as an organization trying to encourage more people to create products and sell products, and also in light of Etsy sort of moving the goalpost, or at least being ambiguous about the goalpost around certain parts of 3D printing. This last week, they released the update around, I'm sorry, guys. I had a 101 fever here for like 4 days before this, coming down off of it a little bit. But the Etsy's update to terms of service do not really hurt 3D printing. They encourage original designs and discourage kind of lazy posting. If you didn't create new photos, if you just downloaded the default template and file and then posted the photos from the Patreon, then they're going to get you, which I think is reasonable, because stupid low effort listing like that is kind of not good, because you have a lower chance of success as a seller in general. And Etsy as a platform is trying to create kind of an original atmosphere there, so they don't want to see that stuff around. That all being said, though, Etsy's dynamics with third-party resources and how they, the ambiguity of it, the fickle god kind of platform danger, both to our users and to us as an organization trying to get more people to sell more 3D printed things, because that's what we try to do. Is not helpful to where we have the discussion, should we build a marketplace? We have thousands of sellers on Teleport. Many of them would probably check a box to say, list my items over at this new place automatically. If I can get more sales, let's go at it. The reason that's not a decision right now, to where we're like, yeah, we're going to do that right now. Building a marketplace is fantastically difficult, especially if you're doing it in an area where there are already marketplaces. Whenever creating a business or a product, you have to say, okay, how are we different from everything else that's out there? Because there's a ton of other options out there. There's Shopify, Etsy, eBay, plus the 10 Etsy alternatives that think Etsy's evil, whatever it was. There's a bajillion of them out there. If you create a marketplace, you have to have sellers and you have to have buyers. If the sellers don't sell anything on your marketplace, they don't want to be on your marketplace, and they're definitely not going to tell any of their friends to come join your marketplace. If buyers go to the marketplace and can't find what they're looking for, they're never going to come back to your marketplace again, because it doesn't have what you're looking for. So the question then becomes, how do we create some hack in one direction or the other? If we were to create an alternative to Etsy, minimum, we have to make it very easy to list on, and we have to have a stupid easy advertising tool where you just say, here's $25, go spend it, and advertise around, and have that actually be useful. That's really hard to do. That literally, that piece of software by itself could be a startup company worth hundreds of millions of dollars. That piece of software alone. People really do not value that in Etsy enough, the advertising tools that they have. We are a 3D printing company that is already very heavily vertically integrated. We make filament and then we produce parts for people at Etsy stores through machines that we manufacture on software that we designed. We're busy. It's really quite astounding how vertical we are, because it's not, we shouldn't be. But here we are, we did it, we survived. It's okay. But building a marketplace too seems like a step too far. But we'd have to have a really good advertising tool. And then obviously we have to make sure that you guys get sales. We have the sellers, great. We have the sellers on Teleport who would move over, cool. So we have a list of products that could be put into that marketplace. A 3D printing marketplace is doubly difficult because everything exists in 3D printing. People would sell cookie cutters, people would sell vases, people would sell tool organizers. They are very different people and buyers. So if we were doing the startup thing, we would bootstrap it. We would go buy cheap Facebook ads in order to get buyers over here. That is a terrible idea, because right now Facebook ads are not cheap. Advertising is not cheap. For a consumer product like a tool organizer, the customer acquisition cost is somewhere between $10 and $30 for an item that costs like $50. That's not good. It's not good. It's not good. It's not 2015 numbers. It's very, very dangerous. And we don't have that type of cash to burn in order to bootstrap a marketplace that may work there without having some secret to it. Now, we could take some niche and say like, oh, we're going to build the cookie cutter store. And that's sort of feasible, but also like not good, because it just wouldn't create a good scenario. It's just, that niching down is fine. We could become the cookie cutter store. And there's some value to that, but that's also doesn't necessitate a marketplace. That's more of like just we build a Shopify store and build stuff over there and put it on Teleport. But that all being said, a marketplace could be interesting because there are things that Etsy are doing poorly. We have a platform, again, to get sellers, maybe some buyers through this YouTube channel and other means. And we are not a short-term company. So we could say, okay, we're going to build this marketplace and we're going to spend the next 10 years puttering away at it. This is all talk. We don't have a handle on it to where it is a viable, actionable business plan, but it's something that's like percolating because it's kind of necessary. Within the case of Teleport, like the thing that we fight with is how to get people to their first sale, because the first sale is the hardest. After that, everything gets easier. So how do we better enable people to get to their first sale? We've thought about looking at other marketplaces that are better starting marketplaces and collaborating with them in some kind of a way. But like Etsy is a really, really good place to sell something. If your product is good and you list it on Etsy and maybe pay for a few ads, you will know if your product is good or bad. If it sells, it's pretty good. If it doesn't sell, it's bad. Etsy is a very honest place for that. Admittedly, Etsy is not the greatest place for like functional items like tools. Because the demographic that shops on there is not really in that same vein. So there's a possibility for another marketplace for like 3D printed functional things. But they're thoughts that we're having. It's not something we're going to do this week in any sort of format. And it's a dangerous thing for us to consider to do because we can spread ourselves super thin super quickly. But there's need of sorts for this kind of stuff. So that's that. Okay, that's the podcast, everybody. Comment down below if there's any topics that you'd like us to cover. And beyond that, have a great day, everybody.